Alright, so new EGR is all installed and torqued and hooked up. And the pipe is back on and clamped, so we're all done with that now. And we'll have a proper functioning emergency shutdown butterfly as well. And the EGR is nice and clean for the moment. As soon as it runs, it won't be clean again, but... so, the next thing... add a little bit of coolant here actually, which it has sucked some down from when it ran, which is what I expected it to do. Alright, so the only other thing we have to do before we can, of course it's raining now so it's going to be loud, the only other thing we have to do before we can move on to the camshaft break-in and the injection timing is, when we were running it before, we noticed that one of the cooling fans, the big driver's side one here, was not running, cycling when the engine would get hot enough to turn them on. So I'm going to just start by, if I can get it, powering the plug for the fan and see if it spins, and if it does, then it's something wrong with the fan control module. If it doesn't spin, even though the fan is completely free, it's not seized, if it doesn't spin with power, then I guess there's something wrong inside, which I've never come across before. Usually they're seized and that's why they won't turn on. So see if I can pull apart the plug down there. It's not a fun thing to get apart usually. So, then it is the, okay, the center wire, the red with the white stripe. Get out of here, mosquito, or you're gonna die. Center red wire with the white stripe, and then the brown is the ground, I believe. Yeah, so a couple of jumper wires. We'll use black for ground and orange for power, just because that's what I've got. Yeah. There we go, that's better. Okay, well, so brown is the ground here. And then we'll try, which end of this is rusty as heck. It's not looking good. I'd say our battery is completely flat. I'm not sure how that's possible. What the heck? Alright, I will be back when I figure out if our, of course you guys couldn't see what I was doing anyways. If our battery's dead, that's a good part of the problem, so we'll see here. There, finally something that's got frickin' power. Alright, so the fan's not working at the moment. So I guess I'll unplug the other fan and try powering it and see if it comes on. If it does and this one doesn't, then I guess the fan's dead, which is unbelievable. Well, that one's going to be substantially harder to power because it's female connection instead of male like this other one. So I'm gonna have to stick a screwdriver in there, I guess. Yet, lost. Okay, and it should be the same. This is our ground. Hopefully the screwdriver is conductive enough. This is our power. And the fan should, in theory, doesn't sound super healthy, but it works. Alright, so I guess we're gonna swap out the driver's side cooling fan because apparently it doesn't work. But I guess I better go see if I can find one that does work before we bother taking it out of there. Alright, so this large fan from the other set I've got from another car here does work. It's not terribly healthy, it's got some squeaking going on, so it probably won't last too long. But it'll get us going for now, and then I can look for another one, I guess. So they're not too bad to change. Now it's a lot easier when you're out of the car like this, but for each of them there's 3 Torx head screws into plastic. Luckily these ones are all soaked in oil for some reason, so it won't be too bad to undo. But if the heads are really crusty, like on some of the ones I've done, or there's no head left, then you're into drilling out the head to get the fan off. But then if you need to use the shroud, then you have to either try and get the rest of the bolt out with, cap screw out with vice grips, or try and drill it out. Although if you go a little least bit off center, it'll just chew the plastic away because it's a stupid metal into plastic thread. So yeah, never a good scenario. But yeah, luckily these ones are in good shape. The bigger question is the condition of the ones that are on the car, because that's the shroud I have to use. That one looks not too bad. That one's a little crusty. Can't see the bottom one. But that'll be my plan, I guess, is to try and I'll get the new one off the other shroud here first, because it'll be a piece of cake. And then I'll try and get this large one off of the car here. And get them swapped and plug it back together, and then we'll get it going up to temperature and see if things actually work the way they're supposed to. Alright, so got the old fan off, put the replacement on. The old fan, the bearings are even smoother and quieter than the new one, so I don't understand why the fan doesn't work. So I'll probably look into that, and then if I can get it fixed, I'll just put it back on, because it's way better. One of the screws, of course the bottom one, in my fan on the car here, is completely shot. Like, I didn't think there was any head left at all when I started. I just lucked out that I could chisel out the bottom of the head with a screwdriver enough and push like hell on the ratchet, and I was able to get it to crack loose. Part of that, what helped will be probably will be that I was able to twist the bottom mount of the fan back and forth to free it from the head and from the shroud, so then there wasn't as much resistance to try and get the screw undone. So the fan is mounted. It is fairly quiet to spin it, and it spins freely, but it makes squeaking noises when it runs. Maybe it'll get better when it has some time on it. And I don't think there's any way to lubricate them per se, otherwise I would. So anyways, that should, hopefully, we'll see when we get it warming up, that should have us ready now to get the car started and start to warm it up, get a little bit of heat in it, and then we'll do the 20 minutes at 2000 RPM to do the camshaft break-in. And then once it's good and warm up to temperature, then we can do the injection timing. And then beyond that, all that's left is a quick toe alignment, toe adjustment for the front wheels, since I put the new tie rods on and just kind of eyeballed it. So we'll do a quick string line alignment, and then I guess we better put all the side skirts and belly pan on because it's freaking muddy now on the roads, gravel roads of course, to be able to test drive it. And the only other thing that I was supposed to do as part of this job that I haven't done yet, and I don't know if I'll have time to, is change the transmission fluid. I do have oil that I bought for it. It's just a matter of time today and what it's going to be like to run it to get it hot, and then get it in here and try and drain it without getting mud and crap everywhere. So we'll see. But at this point I think we're ready to get started. Hopefully it starts right up, it should. And get it warming, and then we'll do our camshaft break-in. Alright, so let's see if we can get it going again here. And I've got a prop stick made up to hold the gas pedal at exactly the right spot so that we can do the camshaft break-in. Everything should be good to go, I think. I didn't touch anything else except the EGR, which is all wrapped up. The fans should be good to go. Hopefully we'll see them cycle. Coolant's good. So yeah. Up super nicely, so let it idle for a minute or two here and then start warming it up a bit, slowly working towards a bit of engine heat, and then we can start the actual cam braking. we'll get it up to 2,000 RPM now and actually start the 20 minutes for the camshaft break-in, and then we'll be back. So that is the end of our 20-minute break-in. Well up to temp. Had both fans going the first couple times, and then it was only running the small one again, so I don't know if it just wasn't hot enough or if there is now a problem with the other one. It still spins free, but we'll leave it for now, and we should be ready to set up now to actually check our injection timing and see where we're at. Alright, aside from being very smoky, that went quite well. Really need to get either exhaust pipe tube to run outside or get it vented with a fan or something if we're going to be working in here. It's going to be interesting for doing the timing because I'm going to have to be in the building, so we'll see how that goes. Luckily the car is only idling for timing, so I'll get set up for that and then we'll walk through it. Okay, so one more time here. We're basically just going to start from scratch because anybody that's trying to follow this and actually do it themselves is going to be super confused, I'm sure. So we're just going to run it top to bottom now that I've got all the pieces figured out, I think. So first part is all still the same. Field 7, when you're in your measuring blocks. So you're on group 0 and you hit go. I'm not connected right now is why it's yelling at me. Go to engine, you go to measuring blocks. You're in group 0, you hit go. You got the 10 measuring blocks. So block 7 is your coolant temp. It says it's supposed to be minimum 73, but we figured out with the VAGCOM here that it works backwards. Now whether that's the cable is wired wrong or the software is wired wrong, but pay attention to that. As your car is heating up, field 7 is either going to go up or down. Ours starts high and comes down. So we try and have it below 73. I was aiming for 69 and it goes lower as the car continues to run. So you got to be at least 73, whether it goes up or down. You got to figure that out on your system. Then you're going to fields 9 and 2. So field 9 is your coated fuel temperature. Right, that's showing an actual number, I think, as opposed to, or no, that's right. Okay, so yeah, coated fuel temperature. In this case, we had like 121. On my car here. Field 9 there is 121. We got 65 for the coolant temp, and block 2 there is the actual injection timing. So then you can either use, you got to get it warm, you get your coolant temp where it needs to be, then you're looking at the fuel temp, and you can either put the fuel temp on the x-axis here, go up to the dash line and across to your injection value, or you use this equation here. You put field 9 in for X, 0.15 times field 9, plus 68 gives you Y, which is field 2, which is your vertical over here. And so the equation tells you what the timing should be at your given fuel temperature, field 9. So in my case, at a fuel temp of 121, I ran it through the equation, and that tells me that my field 2 Y value should be 49.85, so just under 50, and I did confirm it with the graph earlier. And then so once you've got that recommended Y value given your fuel temp, then you're going to actually look at field 2 in the measuring blocks here. So it was bouncing around all over the place, field 2 there, the 55, but basically at 121 and 65 on the coolant temp, so we're well above operating temperature, or minimum operating temperature. So at 121 fuel temp, it says we're supposed to be 49.85 timing, which would be number 2 there, and it's showing that we're at 55. So we are already 5 above advanced, 5 above what is recommended for the fuel temp. So provided I've got everything worked out correctly now, I'm just going to leave it as is, and you can always change it later unless you have the stretch style injection pump sprocket bolts. I do not on this car. If you do have those, I would recommend you get some of the non-stretch ones so that you can feel comfortable with adjusting the timing at any point in the future after you've done a belt, for example. I'm probably going to check it again in, maybe 10,000 kilometers and see where it's at. And you can check it any time with the computer, but it's only if you want to make an adjustment that you then have to worry about loosening the sprocket bolts and adjusting the hub on the pump and all that stuff. But basically it's right about where I want it right now. So I'm just going to leave it, and I'll do my stage 2 torque on the injection pump sprocket, which if we go back to, so there's the 2 kinds of bolts. That's the way to tell if you've got a smaller section just under the head and you got a point. Those are the stretch ones that you're supposed to replace. If you've got a straight bolt all the way to the end flat, they are not stretch bolts, so you can just loosen them and retorque them as is. And where are the torque values for those? Here we go. Okay. So So, and this isn't somewhere we had it written down too, but stage 1, which is what I've got on them right now, is 15 foot-pounds. That is so that you do not stretch the bolts if they are the stretch bolts, so that you can loosen them to adjust timing if you need to. And then for the stretch ones, stage 2 is an additional quarter turn or 90 degrees on top of your 15. So that is for, if we go back to here, no, too far, one more. So this is the A and B that they're referring to, right? So if you've got A, it's the stretch bolt. If you got B, it's not. So then if we go back to, where did it go? The torque values here. So these are for bolt A, which are the stretch ones, always replace, 15, and then your quarter turn. The ones I've got are B, so I'm doing the 15 still as a stage 1, and then final torque is just 18 to say that we're good to go. So I'm happy with, based on what I've done for calculations here, I'm happy with the way my timing is set. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and torque the sprocket bolts up to the 18 foot-pounds. Oops, that's the door. But what you would have to do here, say for example, if I was saying it was supposed to be 49.85 and it was only showing 51 on field 2, then I would want to adjust this. And what's going to be the best way to show this for you? Probably down here. Okay. Okay, so those are the three sprocket bolts, the bluish green ones that we had loosened before, and I actually took the sprocket off at one point to try and turn it a tooth on the belt. So when you want to do a timing adjustment, you're going to crack those 3 blue ones loose. Do not ever turn the big nut with the yellow paint on it, especially backwards. You can turn it clockwise, tightening, but if you ever loosen that nut, then your hub adjustment is all screwed up and you got to take it to somebody to get it set again properly. But if, like I was saying, if we were supposed to be 49.85 and we were showing 51, then I would want to rotate. Can I get a finger? Okay, there we go. So you're going to crack the 3 bolts loose, and then you're going to turn the center clockwise. You're going to turn the big nut with yellow paint clockwise, or you can turn the belt and the rest of it backwards, counterclockwise, because you want the center hub there to get to the same place that it is now before the rest of it. So you want to turn that center, the easiest way is probably to turn the center nut clockwise a little bit. Doesn't take very much. And the biggest problem with this terrible design, of course, is when you tighten the blue cap screws back to your stage 1 torque to be able to run the engine again and check your timing, it's going to move the sprocket on the hub. Can almost guarantee it, because again, they didn't bother to put a washer or anything under there that would let the bolt tighten without moving the sprocket. So that's why I was saying earlier that and I don't know how the editing is going to go on this. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but hopefully whoever's watching can get the gist of how you're supposed to do this. And realistically, you know, anywhere in between, I guess that's another thing we should mention, is if you do the equation or you run the graph and your Y value is outside of this diagonal shaded area, then you're definitely no good. Volkswagen is just saying at least have it in between the solid line on the top and the solid line at the bottom that are going on the diagonal. Ideally, Volkswagen is saying put it on the dash line, right? So right now we're at about 50 is what it's saying it's supposed to be for the 121 fuel temp we had, and the actual is actually 55, which I don't know what I guess it's just the example is the black arrows, but basically just above the black arrow, that next line on the vertical axis there, that's where we're actually sitting right now, 55, 56 even, and it was bouncing around 54 as well. So based on the equation, we wanted 50 basically. We're at 55, 56, so we've got 5 above, 5 advance. So I think I'm just going to leave it as is. Like I said, I'm running out of time here as well to get it going, so we'll leave it as is. I can always check it later, can always readjust later since I have the type B bolts, so I don't have to worry about the stretch factor. And like I said, if we had what we wanted here, 5 advance, and we were supposed to have 50 and we're only getting 51, then we'd be turning the sprocket or the hub clockwise or the sprocket counterclockwise. If your equation is saying you're supposed to be 52 and the field 2 is showing like 47, then okay, you need to bring it back, right? So you're too far advanced. No, you're too far behind. Sorry, you're too far retarded on the timing. If your equation says 52 and your field 2 actual says 47, you're 5 retarded, and it's not calling anybody name. That is what it's called, advanced timing or retarded timing. So you would need to turn them the opposite way then, and that's where you run into trouble, because if you, like I said, if you loosen that big nut, you're toast. So you can try to gently turn it backwards, but you really got to watch. If the hub is moving as you're gently turning the nut counterclockwise, great. But if you start to apply force to it and it doesn't want to move, then try something else. Try turning the engine backwards, keep the hub, or sorry, turn the engine forwards, keep the hub where it is, or loosen your cap screws more if it doesn't want to move. But whatever you do, don't loosen that nut, or you're going to have a lot more trouble than it's worth. So I hope that made sense. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with the editing here. I got several clips all kind of saying the same thing, but this last one will be probably the most accurate. And of course, as always, by all means, make sure you leave a comment or a question if you're not clear on something that I said, or you're getting weird numbers or whatever. Absolutely hit us up and we'll do our best to help out with that. So I'm going to go ahead and final torque the injection pump to the 18 foot-pounds, and then we're done with engine for now. I think we're ready to do test driving. The only other thing I have to do before we can do that is a quick toe alignment, just because we put the new tie rods on and it's all out of whack. All right, so I think we are pretty much done here. The engine should be all finished up. Timing is set for now. I will check it again in not too long. I did a quick alignment with the rope here just to get close. I will get a proper alignment done as soon as I can get it into a shop. But I just adjusted it so that each side has a little bit of toe in so that it's not wandering all over the place, and I tried to make the steering wheel as straight as I could, although I know it won't be straight when I'm actually driving it because it never works out that way. So I just adjusted the tie rods accordingly and tightened up the lock nuts, and now that it's at riding height, I was able to torque up the sway bar links that I left loose previously. I just did a final torque on the front wheels as well. Those are going to be intermediate summers for now. I still have to change the rears. And I put the side skirts and the belly pan and everything back on underneath now, so it is ready to roll down the road. And the only problem with that is if something does start leaking, then it's harder to tell because the belly pan kind of holds it for a while. But it's been completely clean and dry the whole time that I've been running it here, so I'm not too concerned. Everything seems to be good. Coolant dropped a little bit from when I filled it this morning, but nothing crazy. We supposedly have 2 working fans now, but I'm not holding my breath on that big one. It wasn't necessarily doing what it was supposed to be doing, so we'll see about that. But yeah, that's gonna pretty much do it for this project. I think we did a ton of stuff this time around, which I'm not always keen about doing a bunch at once, but just worked out the best that way timing wise. We have new timing belt, all new idlers, new tensioner, new water pump, crank seal, cam seal for oil. We got a updated stage 2 camshaft. We got a updated GT 1749 V8 Garrett turbo. We got a new EGR. Sealed up the valve cover and the oil vacuum pump, and also RTV on the EGR because I know they never actually seal even with a new O-ring. We also have new tie rod assemblies, inner right to outer. I think that's maybe about it. We're gonna likely have to do upgraded injectors to be able to finally do the stage 2 tune. And also a 2.5 inch downpipe for the exhaust, which I will likely be ordering soon. I want to redo it anyways because I've got way too many joints in there and it's got way too many leaking spots. So we'll do a nice 2.5 inch stainless 36 inch downpipe to get to the middle joint, and then keep my side dump that I've got for now, and then maybe later I'll go a little bigger on the rest of it as well, because 2.25 inch I believe is the stock. Now I don't know if it's still 2.25 inch by the time it gets to the axle there, but not a big deal for now. But yeah. So that is going to pretty much do it for the Mark IV Jetta for now. There are some other things that I still want to do as always, and there are some things that I have to do if I want to get this tune put on sooner than later. Injectors being one and downpipe being the other main item for the tune for now. I also have a document now from the place that I was planning to get the tune done, which is Dominate Performance. They are on Facebook. Of course, we're in Ontario, Canada, for anybody that's watching from out of country or province. They gave me a document for engine health that I can go through to make sure that everything's actually working properly, and then the tune will actually be effective, as opposed to before. My turbo was seized most of the time, so it wouldn't have made any difference to do the tune. It would have just been dumping extra fuel in for fun, which doesn't help anybody or anything. So yeah, if you like this probably abnormally long series of videos, definitely hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to GB Productions if you haven't already. Hit that bell so that when you get the next video, say on this project, that you get notified about it. You don't have to be wondering when the next one's coming. Check out the Instagram page, GB Productions 1. We're going to try and get back on posting a little bit ahead of time what's coming next as far as videos. The website, you guys know it hasn't changed in a while. We're both students and Mitchell's working right now, so there's not really any extra time. This job has taken me way longer than I was ever wanting to. I got to get back to my studies, so that's why I'm kind of rushing it out the door here. Yeah, but thanks for watching, and like I mentioned before there on the timing, or any part of it, if there's some part of it that wasn't making sense, or you missed something, or something's not working the way that it did for me when you're watching and tried it yourself, definitely leave a comment, questions, things to add. Yeah, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.